on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
We are starting off right out the gate when we're screening hygienists. We're talking about, of course, what's your comfort level with converting patients same day? Tell me how comfortable you are with adjuncts and the why behind them. But we also ask them, tell me what you know about the business of hygiene. And I like to preface with, this is a safe space. It's okay if we don't have answers. But my goal is that while you're here, we train you up so that you know your worth and you're really comfortable speaking to the numbers.
If you want to make a change, you have to create a better vision for the future. So let's create what that looks like. What is your ideal? And then find the barriers of why we're not there. And then attack them one by one. Is it time? Is it I don't have the right words? Burnout doesn't just come from our clinical, our 9 to 5 or whatever we work. It's all of the pressures around us. It is the social media of we got to do more. It's the bigger, faster, quicker now.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 432. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great episode. We have Trish, Keena on, and Heather McGuire. Before we get into the description of the episode, this episode was recorded at Chicago Midwinter. I think it's really important to note that at that time when we recorded this, both Trish and Heather were working for the same company, and it was now, fast forward several months later, it's now their previous company. So they both since moved on to some really exciting positions. I'm really excited actually for what is in store for them, because I think it's going to play into a lot of their strengths. Some of the things that they talk about on this episode, it's going to give them the opportunity to build and grow hygiene programs at their new places. If you're curious about that, feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn. And if you have any thoughts or questions, then I'm sure they're very much looking forward to hearing from you. But okay, so back to the episode. So we talk about lots of different topics, honestly. We kind of bounce around, but we start by talking about some digital workflows and how hard it is to kind of change our mindset to embrace new technologies and kind of the way we practice and the way we treat patients and things like that. Then later on, we get into some coaching and mentoring and finding out who needs more help and who doesn't. And we dive a little bit deeper into like the reasons why people react and behave the way they do. I was actually just talking to a hygienist this morning, and they were saying that their dental assistant group is having a really tough time. They're having a lot of issues. There's lots of fighting in the group. And unfortunately, that means that the whole entire team is going to have to sit through a bunch of meetings because, we need to get this fixed. And this hygienist in particular is really dreading going to work because of it. And this is such a huge disruption to the offices. And probably you've all had this in your office at one time or another. But so why is that team fighting? Why are the dental assistants fighting? Or hygienists in certain regards? Why are they fighting with each other? And what are the reasons? And why are they reacting and behaving the way that they are and creating this dysfunction? Heather, who's on the show today, has a really great approach to discovering and helping people understand themselves so they can be able to overcome this. They can understand why they're reacting the way that they are. And I feel like I'm really not explaining this very well. I'm not going to do it nearly as much justice as what Heather is capable of doing. But I think you're really going to love what she has to say, because later in the episode, and it's kind of a quicker conversation. We're going to actually do a part 2 on this next part here in a few weeks, but we talk about how the words that we use and the way that we think and the actions that we take, they determine, as Heather says, how we show up in life. It's a very interesting topic on a thing called neural linguistic programming, or NLP. And for me, at least kind of where I'm at right now in life, it makes perfect sense. So be sure to give this episode a listen all the way through. We do jump around to all the different topics, and some of them are really going to speak to you and others may or may not. Then next week, we have an episode about probably a dream many of us have, and that's owning our own dental hygiene practice. I'm joined by Dr. Adam Altdorfer, and we talk about how an RDH could potentially achieve this awesome concept in the beautiful state of Colorado. Many of the traditional obstacles and the barriers that we have that if we're starting up our own practice that we would encounter are kind of removed through the partnership that Dr. Altdorfer has. And he kind of explains the process and the successes of his first client, who her name is LaShonda Jenkins. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast because that's an episode you're not going to want to miss. On some podcast apps, it's a follow button. And on other podcast apps, then it's a subscribe button. You just kind of have to know which one it is. But for sure, every little bit helps us here at the podcast, but also it helps ensure that you don't miss any of the really cool episodes we have coming up. I apologize for the voice. It is what it is, but hopefully next week it'll sound a little bit better. That is all for us for this week. I hope you enjoy this episode with Trish and Heather.
A tale of two hygienists.
Never asked you
Actually,
that
I
before.
don't. No, I don't think I
No
do.
one's ever called you a nickname ever in your life.
Oh, I mean, stupid Heather Feather.
There we go.
I'm sorry, Heather the
Heather
You don't
Feather.
get to choose your
Heather
nicknames.
Feather.
You got to tell
Heather
us.
Feather. Yes,
Is that a family
I've been-
nickname?
No, it rhymes. Like, yeah, kids.
No,
like,
kids made
yeah,
fun of you with that
yeah.
name?
And then when I was growing
They're
up,
not very imaginative.
when I was growing up, my maiden name was Simpson. So having the name of Simpson during the 80s was really cool.
Because the
Simpsons. So it would be like, is Bart
Dun,
your
dun, dun, dun,
dad
dun.
or brother? And is Homer your dad?
Where's
And-
Bart?
Yeah, all those stupid
Oh,
things.
that's clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, listeners, welcome into this interview portion. I'm really excited to be joined today by Trish and Heather. Both of you, thank you for joining me today.
It's so good to be here for the second time.
Thank you for having me.
As you heard, Heather Feather over here is really excited to be here on the podcast. But Trish, this is an anniversary, right? Is it Chicago last year?
Was it last year or 2 years? I can't
Please be
remember, but
only
it's
last
some
year. It
it's
felt
some
like last year.
anniversary for us for sure.
Yes. All right. Well, happy anniversary to the podcast to you. You might recognize that voice. Trish is a leader in our DSO. You've been actually on the panel too for Under One Roof that they might have saw you at. But she's a leader in DSO. She's wonderful. She's awesome. And thanks for being here.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, still doing that, and thank you for having me be part of that panel. That was awesome to be with.
So fun.
We had some
Let's do it
great
again.
leaders on there. I would love to do that. We're
right.
in the Rockies this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
do
in.
it. Let's do it. What's new with you? Let's catch up with you real quick before we jump over to Heather.
So still at Elite Dental Partners,
Mhm.
VP of Hygiene. We are continuing with our initiatives with comprehensive care. A lot of exciting things there that I hope we get to talk to you about today. There's a new topic that we're starting to focus on when it comes to training hygienists, and it has to do with hygiene business acumen.
What?
Yep.
I love it.
We are starting off right out the gate when we're screening hygienists. Yeah, we're talking about, of course, what's your comfort level with converting patients same day? Tell me how comfortable you are with adjuncts and the why behind them. But we also ask them, tell me what you know about the business of hygiene. And I like to preface with, this is a safe space. It's okay if we don't have answers. But my goal is that while you're here, we train you up so that you know your worth and you're really comfortable speaking to the numbers. So we've added a portion of hygiene business acumen to our onboarding, and we're really excited about it.
You know what I love about that, though, is the transparency. Obviously, your objective is to get better qualified candidates, right? Going through the portal. I get that. But if I was to apply to a job and I'm like, okay, I understand they're DSO, they're probably going to be the businessy or whatever. You never know to what level, though. You never know what accountability level you're going to be held. And so this is setting them like right from the get-go. This is what we're looking for. Are you a good fit or not? It's going to save a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of wasted time for everyone. Because we all love DSOs. I mean, I assume, Heather, you love DSOs too?
I do.
Okay.
I
We all
do.
love DSOs on this podcast, but it really isn't for everybody, and it'll help kind of weed out the bad ones.
And
So,
Again, we're not looking for the perfect answers. We're looking for the right mindset.
yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
we want to train you. We want to help you get there. It's okay if you don't know.
But to that point, admit that you don't know, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge part. If you're going into a job interview, be honest.
And no one said, oh, I'm okay. I can skip that part. They said, no, yeah, wow, that's great that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So it's been really great.
Oh, good for you. All right. And so you and Heather work together then, correct?
Yes, I had the privilege of working with Heather. And gosh, Heather, I learned so much from you. It is amazing to work with you and Anjali every day. Little plug there because they keep me in check.
Thank you. It's great working with you. I've had the opportunity of working with you at multiple multiple different endeavors, and it's been great. I feel like I've learned so much from you. And as you were speaking about the business acumen, I've learned so much about that from you. And I feel it just makes me a better hygienist. It makes me more aware of the business side of clinical care. And it just develops me more as a person to be able to continue to grow my career, either inside the op or out.
I think what I'd like to have a conversation is I feel like this podcast is a little bit selfish on my end, because it's like I want to have the answers to my itchy brain, right? Like, just give me the answers. So I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit out of touch. I'm getting a little bit out of touch of the coaching aspect. Did it for years and years and years. I've been a year out now. So what I'd like to know from the both of you is, what are the challenges of the everyday hygienist that you're seeing as you're going into the practices? Like, it's different than it was several years ago. I mean, I think post-COVID, like, we had some different challenges. Pre-COVID, we had different challenges. 20 years ago, we had different challenges. What are the challenges of today that we're seeing?
I think there's overload in not only the different products and adjuncts, things like Curidont and SDF, there's overload with adjuncts, but then there's also overload in like our technologies that we offer. Just thinking about AI and how that can be incorporated into the appointment. And I think there's a natural aversion to all of it because they just want to get in and care for the patient, like physically complete a cleaning. And they don't know how to pull in the different parts to actually make the physical part of cleaning teeth easier. And that's something we're working to get better at as well, is from the front end, setting them up from success. And when we're onboarding them, showing them how they can do a full perio chart in 5 minutes using AI. But I think that's something that's overwhelming and, is not showcased at the schools. And so when they come out and they're saying, okay, wow, this is a lot more than just patient care. I've got technology, I've got new products, I've got vendors. I think that's a newer challenge that we're seeing.
I kind of want to dive into that just a little bit more. And I think if whatever you guys are allowed to share on the podcast, as far as like digital workflows, this AI, all this stuff is supposed to make it easier, but it does seem like overly complicated, especially for someone who's kind of in a rut that has been doing it already without AI and can do a perio chart in 6 minutes instead of 5 minutes. Like they can do what they're supposed to do without AI. What is the expectation then for your hygienist implementing all of the tools, like start to finish? What does that appointment look like?
Well, some of the challenges, I'm going to back up a little bit, because some of the challenges is the mindset of, I don't want to try anything new. I compare dental field to medicine all the time, and we want to see the doctors that have the cutting edge technology and the greatest scanning machines. And we want to see doctors who really elevate their care. And yet in dentistry, I feel like we sit back and say, this is the way I've always done it.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't fit that in my allotted time frame. Or where do you expect me to do a wellness scan with a scanner and then talk to the patient about it? So I think that, to go back to your question, is one of the biggest challenges that I see working side by side with so many of our hygienists, is that closed mindset of, we are breaking into a whole new dawn of dentistry, and it's so exciting. But with that is the fear of change. What is it going to look like if I don't do things my way, the way I've always done it? So, the expectation or the hope is that we just embrace this. Everybody's here at this show, and there's amazing, walking around the floor of Midwinter, there is amazing technology. I saw a mirror. Like, I don't even know what this handheld mirror, and it does everything, and you can speak into the mirror, and it is temperature controlled, so it never fogs, and it's like an $8,000 mouth mirror. But this is where we're going. This is exciting.
Please don't drop that one.
I know. I was like, how many does that take to stock the operatory? But we walk around conventions or shows, or we read the magazines, and we're so excited about it, but then we are hesitant to implement it because that's going to change our time frame. It's going to change what we're used to. So the biggest challenge is just having an open mindset.
How do you react to the kind of statement that you hear sometimes that, hygienists who don't want to change, it's because they're lazy?
No, I don't think it's lazy. I think it's more of the growth of uncomfortability. of not knowing what it looks like. And if you don't know the why behind a change, then there's a lot of room for you to fill in that white space in your brain, right? Because by default, our brain just goes to a negative. It goes to that flight or fight, and it's gonna make up a story. So if we don't know the why behind things or what this advancement is going to do for our patient care, then we're going to just tell the story to ourselves that it's about X, Y, or Z when it's truly not.
Sure.
So I don't think they're lazy. I think it's just more the why and the education behind it will get you on board easier.
In a minute, I want to come back to, you guys go into an office, like what does a coaching appointment look like and why are you there and, that kind of stuff. But I want to come back to the digital workflow or the workflow thing first, because I do think that it can be perceived as a complicated process. But I think if you hear it, once on the podcast and then you see it in real life, then it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. So do you all mind walking through that a little bit?
Yes. So I'm going to be honest, when I think about bringing on a partner in technology or that contributes to the digital workflow, I selfishly need to understand how much they're going to be able to support us as a vendor. And so, we work with Denti AI, and they are extremely supportive from the time somebody makes a request, inquiring about getting voice perio. They have field support that will go to their practice. They can train virtually. They can, give a CE on staging and grading while they're training on the product. That's what we rely on. We have so many, balls in the air that we are juggling when it comes to what a practice needs and clinical hygiene support. We truly rely on our vendor for that, because that's exactly right. We don't just want to advertise that, hey, we offer voice perio here, and then it doesn't actually get done. And then we don't have the reviews to testify that this truly does make my day easier. And so for us, I know that's something that I lean on, is having a great partner.
Absolutely. And tell me more about your question of what the digital workflow is, like how that is incorporated or...
Yeah, it kind of depends on so if I'm a hygienist working for you all, as I start the appointment, what kind of different innovations would I have? Denti AI would be one of them. But then also, what are the expectations of the hygienist that might be a little bit different than they see in maybe, a rural town and, a private practice kind of a thing?
I think the expectation is to use it, right? So if the investment's there in your practice, whether it's private practice, corporate, doesn't matter. If the investment of the technology is there, then use it and use it to its fullest advantage. So, there's going to be upgrades. I believe Denti AI is working on helping come up and generate the stage and the grade. So now my part in that is to know what that means when there's a generated stage and a grade, or some of the softwares are helping us detect bone level and helping us detect caries. So, if you're doing an itero screening and you have the Nevi and you can see that there's lesions in there, the expectation is just to use what you see, the data that the machines and the technology is telling you.
Is this though running in the background, or is this something you have to actually go into another program to do? Again, going back to the clinical, I'm sitting here, I've done if we go back to the very basics of what we used to do, right? So we go in, we do our x-rays, and we do our perio chart, we do all of our assessment phase. At what part then are we looking at bone levels, or do we have to tell the program to run the bone levels and then have that integrate in? Or is it all just coming up on our perio chart? What does that look like for
it's all coming together at one time, and I don't know if Denti AI is there and fully launched it yet, but I believe that there's other softwares out there that are doing this as well, that it just shows you, it just gives you the level of the bone. So knowing what that means as a clinician and then knowing how to present it to the patient. And it really is going to, how many times did we take a pen and paper and draw a tooth on the tray cover, and I'm going to draw a line to show you this is your gum tissue, this is where it's supposed to be, this is where it is. We don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have to draw what bone is. You don't have to stand up on the screen and put your hand over the x-ray to say this is where your gum levels should be. I feel like I took so much time creating how to share what an x-ray looks like.
Yeah.
Where now that is just that part is being done for us, so we can give that higher level education and clinical care, because it just is going to roll in. It's right there for you to use.
Do you feel like there's some benefit maybe, I guess, to having the ability to be look, this is not my drawing anymore. This is objective evidence from, do you guys use AI, the term AI is showing us this, or computer assisted or anything, or is that too scary for the patients to hear that?
I don't have a think they need to know it. It's just what it is. If you go to, again, taking it back to medicine, you go to a medical doctor, they're not explaining to you step by step what a CAT scan's doing. They're just showing you your results. So this is what the data is showing. This is what we've come up with your imaging.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have to explain going from manual x-rays to digital. We just did it.
And I think the bigger expectation is that we are going to show a visual, because we all know how much a picture tells a story. And so, like we said, we've done it from our own hand drawings to our intraoral photos. It just makes it easier to do that for the patient and hopefully make them, engaged and own what's going on in their mouth.
Okay, let's get into the common calls. So as leaders in the organization, how do you select which office or which area needs the most help in like the coaching aspect or the mentoring aspect? What are you all evaluating?
So learning the business acumen that we're starting to do really even before onboarding, we're talking about it at the interview. But going through that and getting familiar with the term KPI, a key performance indicator. And the way I like to explain this is it's the table of contents in your book. So you're opening it up and you're looking at all of these chapters. And then it tells you, what your metrics should be. Based on the prevalence of disease, we know how much of our practice will be presented as a perio patient, classified as that. How many patients have gingivitis? So we know these metrics, these targets. And when those targets are off, that's the chapter of the book I have to go read. I can skip to chapter 10 if I need to, because that's where your story, your individual story, hygienist, is telling me that there may be some barriers that we need help with. And maybe it's not even your own barriers. Maybe it's you're doing everything you possibly can in the chair, and your treatment plan coordinator, it drops there because they don't understand how to mirror what you just said in very simple words. So really it's diving into the business side of what our clinical care looks like, not necessarily in relation to dollars, but in relation to what the clinical numbers show you. And if you don't have that quantified patient care number, you do have the dollar amount to go with it to say, this is a chapter we got to go start with and read a little bit more first. So that's how I look at all of the offices that I partner with, is what chapter are they stuck in? And honestly, it's different. For every office I have, there's some that are stuck in, what is this 4346 code? There's some that are stuck in, I don't understand what staging and grading is. So we just look at what chapter to go say, and then where are you at? Andrew, if you're my hygienist, where are you at with this? Tell me what you know, so then I can help you get from where you're at to where we want to be as an industry, not just even as the organization, as the dental care industry. We've got to do better, and we have all the tools and resources available to us to do excellent patient care now.
So I'm going to throw maybe not like a full-on scenario, but we're going to assume that it's we have a supportive doctor that's doing the accurate diagnostics and communicating properly between the patients and them and all of that. We have a good patient coordinator or care coordinator, whatever you all call it, treatment plan coordinator. We have an assistant that's helping reinforce. All of the other outside stuff is where it needs to be. We have our book, our chapter book. Our content is easy to read, and we know what the expectation is. So the scenario I'm going to present to you, though, is I'm Andrew. You're going to coach me, okay? I'm Andrew, and my perio percentage, right? I'm doing 90% prophies. Where do we start with fixing me? So I'm a problem. I'm a huge problem.
Well, I would explain what we're going to look for first. So, Andrew, I want to just check in with you where you're at and ask you and just kind of go back to what we know, the prevalence of the disease state. Okay. And then with utilizing our KPIs, we can say, okay, for last year, you saw 3,500 healthy mouth patients that were classified as that 1110. And we've seen 2 gingival therapies and maybe 4 or 5 quadrants of scaling and root planing. Okay. I just want to know do you feel that that's an adequate representation of your practice? Because I don't know. I'm not in your chair. I don't see, I come in with a very inquisitive state first, curiosity.
Love it. Yeah.
because I don't see what you see every day. Because again, it tells me what chapter to look at, but it doesn't tell me all the pages in that chapter. So I need you to tell me, is this a true adequate representation of your practice? And if you say yes, then we're going to dig in a little deeper to say, okay, do you know what the parameters are for diagnosis of gingival therapy? Tell me what you're looking for when you're saying that this patient's healthy. And then dive into some chart reviews. And when I chart review, I look at x-rays first, because then I look to see I can identify the bone level. And then I'm going to double back and say, what do I think this perio chart should show based on what the x-rays show? So I'm going to walk through that with you.
Love it. Yeah.
And I'm going to present it as, this is what I'm looking for. This is how I do my chart reviews. This is how I saw the patient. This is what I do first. And just check in where you're at. And then organically the conversation comes up and they're like, I don't know about this new code, because we didn't know it. I mean, we've all practiced a long time. I learned how to perio chart with a red and blue pencil on a page. Like, how do you determine clinical attachment level and loss from that? You know, it's wild. So we don't know. So walking through that then, and then just putting them small incremental goals. Our mind, when we are making a change in behavior, one of my favorite things I say is we're either defined by a memory of the past or a vision of the future. It's a Joe Dispenza quote. I can't steal it and say that it's organic, but that's true. We're defined by a memory of the past or a vision of the future. And if you look at your life that way, and you look at any aspect of it, and if you want to make a change, you have to create a better vision for the future. So let's create what that looks like. What is your ideal? And then find the barriers of why we're not there. And then attack them one by one. Is it time? Is it I don't have the right words? I don't know, I don't have the right rapport with my patients. There's so many variables of why you could be at 90% pro fees.
Couple of thoughts. You're lucky I'm not actually in leadership. I would steal her, absolutely. But I like it because it's not coming in like as an accusation. I feel it's a lot of objective data. No, it's not like about me as a person. It's not about if I'm a nice person or a bad person. It's about really seeing like, okay, here's outside of us, there's this objective data. Let's figure out where we fit the puzzle pieces. Like, where do we fit into this puzzle and how can we get better? The barriers that people have, if we're thinking about like the past stuff, do you feel like it's a simple training? We just like turn that key and fix them right away? Or is this more also like more like emotional, mental barriers?
I feel both. I feel sometimes you can say something to one person and you see that aha click. And I have a couple hygienists that come to mind right now when you just asked me that question. They instantaneously clicked because they're like, oh, you know what? You're right. I could do better. Yeah. And then they go and they implement that change right away. And then there's some of them that are just so uncomfortable to say, I've seen this patient for 20 years. How do I now tell them they have perio? Because as hygienists, I think we've always led with our heart a little bit too much. And instead of saying, this is what I see, and this is the treatment that I can perform for you to get you back healthy. And then it's hard to double back on that and say, I maybe I dropped the ball. And sometimes that's hard to say is, I should have told you this years ago. So I try to say, let's talk about what we see today. So some hygienists, it is a little bit longer of a stretch because they have to build up their own clinical confidence in their verbiage too. And some of them is that instantaneous light bulb.
Trish was mentioning to me, I can't remember if we said this actually on air, but I'll say it again just in case I didn't, that sometimes there are, professionals that you see them chairside, they're great, we're good. I don't want to say they're fixed, but like they're well on their way of the journey of doing the right things. But then there are individuals who might need a little bit of extra, like either self work or kind of outside the business thing. How do you identify the individuals that need more?
So there's a couple different things that I look at when I'm meeting with people, when I'm mentoring them or coaching them. It's mindset, skill set, and action. Those are my three filters that I'm looking at if I have you across the table for me. And I'm trying to determine where you're stuck, okay? Because you need all of those three things working in flow to move forward. So I'm going to ask those questions really from a genuine state of curiosity to find out where you're stuck. Because if you have the skill set and you have the knowledge to get from one side of the bridge to the other, where is your mindset on it? Okay, so if I know, and there's no clinical questions on anything that I have to do,
Sure.
then where's your mindset on this? Do you believe in it? Are you fully supported in, antibiotic therapy for infection or fluoride or whatever it is? So what's your mindset around it? And then action. So if your skill set's right and your mindset's right, now what's preventing you from taking action? So if I broach all of my meetings and my one-on-ones and even in personal coaching, where are you stuck? It's always going to come to one of those three things. And once we identify that, then I can help you get from this side of the bridge to the other, from where you're at to where you want to go. And it goes back to that vision of the future. Okay. And this can go outside of dentistry and in personal areas. If I'm on this side, how do I create that vision of the future and where am I stuck? Do I need to build a better skill? Is that what it is? I'm working on expanding different areas of my life, and there's skills I need to learn to get there. But my mindset's right about it, and I'm putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm taking the action. So to me, it always comes down to one of those three things, if it's in dentistry or not. Where's your mindset? Where's your skill set? And what action are you taking to move yourself forward?
Yeah. I want to kind of pivot a little bit to like the personal side of coaching things, not, and I'm sure there's overlap in dental and not, but the reading through your website, there's a couple of initials, terms, whatever, letters that I didn't understand. And I was hoping that maybe we could kind of dive into that a little bit for the next couple of minutes, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Neuro-linguistic programming and mental and emotional release.
Yes.
I want to talk about those two. Are they intertwined or are they two different topics?
Two different, but definitely blend together. Absolutely.
Okay. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So it's always funny when you tell somebody that you're a certified master practitioner in neuro-linguistics programming. It sounds like I'm some kind of computer programmer.
You're a
right?
robot is what it is.
Like, yeah, it's a very broad topic, but really simply what it is how our brain processes the language that we either say to ourselves or other people have said to us, and how it forms our programs or our patterns. So how does what I think and how does what I say affect how I show up in life?
How is this not AI robotic? It's like all of your inputs are going to have your outputs.
So my husband calls me a master Jedi mind trickster. There might have been another word in there, but yes. So it's such a cool part, and it's been around forever. Okay, this is not something newly coined. And what you do when you study and become a practitioner in NLP is really tune in to somebody's language. And I can hear your barriers. I can hear where you're stuck, and we work with the unconscious mind because that's where all our patterns are stored.
Mm-hmm.
It's this huge, so maybe it is a computer system. I don't know.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm pitching this wrong. I don't know. But our unconscious mind stores all of these memories in every event we have. Have you ever drove home and you're like talking on the phone, listening to the radio, thinking of a million things, and you drove home and you're in your driveway and you're like, holy cow, how did I get home?
Not in a scary way, but yeah. I'm
but
I didn't think about the pathway to get home. I just did it.
You're like, right. I don't even remember, I got home. I'm home already.
Yeah.
It's because you have a pattern or a program of turn left here, turn right here. So you don't have to think about it. It just happens. And that's because it's all stored in your unconscious. And so much of our beliefs, our limiting beliefs, our self-sabotaging behaviors, that little mind chatter that gets in our way from saying, I'm really good at this and I want to be great. Maybe I want to make a career change and I don't want to be a clinical hygienist anymore, but I'm not good enough. I haven't done anything except chairside hygiene. So all of those negative thought patterns stem from something in our unconscious mind. So NLP helps pull those thought patterns out of your unconscious. And I use scientifically proven techniques to change your patterns. Super cool stuff. Don't want to go too deep into it, but I want you to think about it this way. If I'm going to date myself, a jukebox where you plug in, I want to listen to record A4, and you pull up a jukebox. What happens when the records got scratched? Like if your record was scratched on A4,
I don't know.
it's not going to play. You
I'm
don't know what a
too young.
jukebox
I'm sorry.
is? Okay, come
Look,
on.
they were at the pizza place. They were always on the side, but like we never played them because we didn't have quarters. That's all
Okay,
I'm saying.
so a CD. What happens when a CD?
It
Come
either
on, you have
skips
to be around
or
for
makes
CDs.
a weird noise. Yeah.
Okay, it skips.
Yeah.
So if I pull up this CD and we scratch that thought pattern that you have, that pattern's not going to play anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we scratch it enough, it no longer exists. Those words don't exist on that record or CD, right? It won't play. So when you work with an NLP practitioner, they're listening for your thought patterns, your belief systems, and what you want to change.
Is it tone that you're looking at? Is it like actual words that you're using instead of other words, like how you're saying the thing instead of how are you listening for things? I don't understand that part still.
Well, I took 2 years worth of courses.
Okay. So it's a lot of like just
it is
breaking down the analysis of all.
So whenever a sentence starts with "I can't," "I won't," "I don't know how," or
Absolutes.
yes.
Always. This
Yes.
never happens for me. We talk about that a lot. Like, did you know, you'll tell me after a call, like, did you notice how many times she said, this never works, or I'm never the one picked? You pick up on
Yes.
those things.
Yes. So it's hearing those absolutes. It's hearing your representational system of the world, like starting to see how you're filtering information in. And then just really using series of questions to get to the hook of it, and then going through some techniques and some sessions together where we can pull up that memory or that belief system you have. If I can't do this, or this is so many times, and pay attention to it for the rest of the day, how many times people will tell you their limiting beliefs. They tell you their sabotaging behaviors. Because we really, at the core, we want those things to be healed. And we'll say it, it's the joking thing you say about yourself all the time, and it comes up in a coaching session or it comes up in the clinical setting, and you just dive in a little bit deeper. And I have the tools and I have the words to scratch that CD for you. So now when it goes back, it's no longer going to play in your unconscious mind anymore.
I love it. Can we talk about one more little mini topic?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I want to talk about burnout, and I want your perception of burnout today, as opposed to maybe are we still seeing the same patterns, behaviors, things that are contributing to burnout that we did 20 years ago, or is this a new era, legitimately? Because I'll tell you what, social media is telling us that this is completely new.
I don't agree with that. I don't think burnout's completely new. I think it's just different. There's so many different layers. God, I look at the lifespan of a hygienist is so long. You have some new grads, and then you have people who've practiced 30 plus years. And it's not just what's happening in the workplace. It's, I personally am a full-time caregiver for my 90-year-old grandmother with dementia. That adds a different layer. There's so many other outside stresses in our world that burnout doesn't just come from our clinical, our 9 to 5 or whatever we work. It's all of the pressures around us. It is the social media of we got to do more. It's the bigger, faster, quicker now. And that contributes to it. So I don't think it's new. I think it's just different. And with all of the advancements in technology and everything, it is a faster pace. We don't have to take so much time to get the job done anymore. And I'm uncomfortable with the changes, and now I feel burnt out and I don't want to be here anymore. And that's one of the things that when I work, or I don't want to be in the career anymore, or there's all kinds of discontent. And that is one of the things that I work with one-on-one with coaching clients, is finding your values and really getting you in tune with them. So now your career brings you more happiness again, and tuning out that outside noise. Does that answer your question?
It really does. I mean, I had a bias going into that question, so I'm glad you confirmed what I already kind of thought. It also just kind of seems that, this is not exactly what you were saying, but my experience has been that the people who have quit whatever they thought was causing them burnout just find it somewhere else. They're replacing it with something else, right? So they think it's hygiene. They think it's our profession.
Yeah.
This is causing me the burnout. Where you're saying it's probably a lot of other things. I think we could retain a lot more people if we could help them just deal with it, manage it, uncover the real causative actions for it. But all right, I've kept you too long. I thank you so much for being on. If anyone wanted to reach out for more advice, coaching, where can they find you?
Yep. So I'm on Facebook, Heather McGuire, RDH. I am on LinkedIn, same Heather McGuire. My website is www.mcgcoaching.com. I do go into a little bit more of what NLP is there and what the mental and emotional release aspect is. I know we didn't get a time to talk on that, but that helps you eliminate all of those hooks so that you can show up in the moment without 20 years worth of anger, 20 years worth of sadness, guilt, shame, whatever it is. So we release that. So the website does talk a little bit more about that. And anybody listening can book a free 60-minute call with me. And I would love to dive into where you're at and where you want to go and help eliminate some of that mind chatter to either make you really a stellar hygienist and be really passionate again, or help elevate you to another role within the industry.
It's so valuable. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Trish, if they want to reach out to you?
You can hit me up on LinkedIn, Trish Keena.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.